Welcome to Lost Sheep Found. I'm your host, Carrie, and I'm so excited to finally share my story with you. My hope is that by sharing my journey, others may find comfort knowing they are not alone. Also, I want to take a moment to inform you that this episode contains explicit language, discussions about sensitive topics related to religion, personal struggles, drug use, suicide, and other stories that may trigger strong emotions. If you're experiencing a crisis or mental health challenge, please seek guidance from a qualified professional.
Don't have a dime to my name, and my debt to you could never be repaid. When the heat wave starts to break, and the ice and snow melts away, when the tears we've cried have all run dry, we find the rainbows in. We'll be walking in the sunshine with him.
Guys, welcome to our first episode of Lost Sheep Found. I'm Brandy, your co-host, and we're finally officially live. So please be nice as we're learning as we go and how to do this. I'm excited to introduce our first story, which is our very own host and creator of Lost Sheep Found, Carrie.
Hi, guys.
So for you listeners who don't know our backstory, Carrie and I met when our eldest children, both boys, were in kindergarten. We met at T-ball in the bleachers. Although they went to the same preschool, we didn't meet each other then. But anyways, our boys instantly became elementary school best buds, having many sleepovers and school contests, winning the same one. I think it was the paper airplane throw. And for me, the two most memorable talent show performances, which was the Ferris Bueller Day Off, dancing on a float, rolling on stage. Yeah, that said Save Ferris. It was great. And the second one, the Blues Brothers, Soul Man. They were playing the harmonica while mine's doing cartwheels, and yours is dancing side to side across the stage in a suit, singing with their microphones, just seriously making us crack up.
And the fact that they did it like as two boys just did not care.
Totally.
It was amazing. I loved it.
They had no idea who the Blues Brothers really was.
No idea. And people were rolling.
I mean, priceless.
Yeah, laughing.
Yeah. So also, side note, something Carrie might not know is that you were one of my starting close friend connections with the kids in elementary school. I mean, we always would, the kids would get along and meet, and then we'd meet the parents and it'd be not a match, right? And then we'd like the parents and then the kids wouldn't like each other. So it was like one of the very first that I can remember match overall. I like the parents, the kids like each other. This is awesome. So it's just super fun. And, we're going on 11 years of friends.
Yay.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And even though our boys don't really hang out as much anymore.
No, changing of the schools kind of separated them. But to me, they're super similar. I just hope that meeting will circle back at some point.
Well, and when they do hang out, they have a great time.
Yeah, totally.
But just they lead different lives. But I'm glad that we're still making that effort to stay connected and
managed to hold on. Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from, a little bit about your childhood, and some first memories of religion.
So I grew up in Long Beach, California, and no, I do not know Snoop Dogg. So I grew up there in North Long Beach and lived there with both my parents and my sister. And both my parents worked full time, and my grandparents would watch us when we weren't old enough. They would pick us up from school, and they were our babysitters, which was so much fun. In regards to religion, we didn't go to church every Sunday. So it made it weird now that I think about it is my parents had us go to a private Christian school, but we weren't a religious family outside of that. So my sister and I both went to a private school. When my sister got to junior high, my parents allowed her the option to go to a public school. Of course, she's going to go to a public school. All her friends went to public schools. And that was the end of the decision making for me. So choices that my sister made going to a public school took away my opportunity to choose.
So she was making bad choices.
She made very bad choices. My sister was extremely smart. She actually skipped a grade in elementary school, and she started smoking pot, and she made it to high school. She did not finish high school. She graduated with her GED, but the pot smoking, the gateway drug, took her. She started doing more hardcore things. But she graduated, or she got her GED. The thing with my sister is she always worked full time. Like, she always had a job, which is so bonkers to me. But she did sketchy shit to my parents. Like, she pawned things to get money, and that was the first time I ever saw my dad cry, was dealing with my sister and like her stupidity and drug use.
Yeah. Drugs and pawning kind of go hand in hand when it gets to that.
Like, they got
level.
to a point where they knew what pawn stores to like go check to see if their stuff was there. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
Didn't give you a choice once you got to 6th grade.
Nope. No. So I think my parents believed by keeping me in the private school, that was going to keep me from making those same decisions. And my sister's 5 years older, so she had a lot of years ahead of me in experiences. But yeah, her choices, and my parents thought keeping me in the private school would keep me from making those same choices, which it did. But I just saw what it did to my parents, and I didn't want to upset my parents like that.
So you probably would have still been okay in the public school because you weren't going to make the same mistakes, but
I think
you didn't have the choice, right? So you stuck with the private school.
Yeah, and I didn't care. Like, I had my friends. I went from kindergarten to 12th grade with a lot of the same people, a handful of the same people. And truly, I didn't know any different. Like, school was school. One thing I was thinking about too is my parents didn't push me. So if I got like C's, they weren't like, you're in trouble, you need to study more or whatever. I think also they thought if they pushed me, then that would push me to rebel against them and then push me in the direction of my sister, which they should have pushed me.
What's your... yeah, I know. You hate to be pushed, but then...
So I did what I just had to do to get by. Like, yeah, I'll go to school. I'll socialize. Like, I wasn't top of my class. I was like just smooth sailing right on through. Let's not upset my parents. Let's just do what I got to do, you know.
And what's your relationship now with your sister?
Unfortunately, we don't talk just due to choices or her behavior through some of the situations later on in life.
Continue on from elementary school to middle school to high school, all in a religious school, right? So now how does high school and religion, and what do you see and hear, and what are you learning?
So, private Christian school, again, I knew nothing different. We had Bible class every day. We had chapel once a week on Thursdays. We prayed before every class. But again, not religious outside of school. I would go to youth group on my own, but my parents did not make us go to church every Sunday. I went to school to socialize, mainly. I was a talker, and always on my report card it's like, talk successively, joy to have in class, but won't shut the F up. But as I got older and it was a senior in high school, I started seeing things that I'm like, I don't know about this. And it really made me start to question, do I want to have this religion once I graduate? One thing was, we had to write a paper about our church and compare it to one of the 7 churches in Revelations. Go check it out. And I was honest in my paper about not going to church on Sundays. But I do go to youth group. I totally said that. And those MFers threatened to kick me out of school my senior year of high school because I was not going to church. Like, ridiculous. Like, my parents paid tuition and I was not a bad student. I wasn't, like, I was voted most fun to be with. Like,
right. Grades were fine.
Yeah, I talked a lot. Okay, I get it. I will shut up. But honestly, it was because I didn't go to church every Sunday. So it was in the contract that I needed to go to church every Sunday, apparently.
I mean, weren't they going to catch that as the years went on? Like, up until senior year, they just realized that you weren't going to Sunday church?
I don't even know. Like, did the Bible teacher say, hey, we got an issue here, red alert, we have a sinner? I don't know, like, what.
Why it came to.
And really, it was my senior year. So, anyways, yeah, so interesting. So
what were some other things that you saw while you were at high school that maybe didn't settle well with you?
The other thing, it was a huge thing, was, so we had girls that ended up getting pregnant. It happens. Public, private, whatever, it happened. And their take on it was those girls were not allowed back in school unless they gave the child up for adoption. Yowza. There was actually a girl in my class that got pregnant and she fought it. She wanted to keep her baby. They weren't going to let her back. She fought it. I don't know if she threatened to sue him or what, but she ended up coming back to school and she was able to keep her baby. So that just put, like, you talk about forgiveness and everything, but then here you are like, oh, you screwed up. You can't come back here. And it's like, well, that's religion. That's this religion. One, now you've threatened to kick me out of school for not going to church every Sunday. And now you're not allowing these girls who made a mistake. Now, life is hard. If they gave the child up for adoption, life is hard. If they kept the child, life is hard. Like, they're teenagers having babies. Like, you're going to punish them that much more. Like, they want to come back.
Well, I mean, I think that it's insane that their decision would have to be one certain way, because we all believe, women should have freedom of choice, whatever the decision that comes.
Like, thank God, I'm sure some girls, who knows, maybe they had abortions. There was an abortion clinic across the street from my high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we would see people protesting. So did girls have abortions in my high school? I don't know. I wasn't privy to that tea. But yeah, so that made me really start to question, did I want to continue religion after graduation?
Well, and I think the correlation of you getting almost unable to graduate, but your grades were decent. You didn't have any behavioral problems.
No.
Right? Like,
I just wouldn't stop talking.
Which is not a sin that I'm aware of.
Well,
stop talking.
I guess my senior prank, the only bad thing, and I don't even consider it bad, some of the people involved took it to an extreme. I was a part of the group of, like, the superintendent's son was in this group. Like, it was a good group of people, the popular people, whatever. I was friends with everyone. That's how I was most fun. I will talk to anybody at that point. Now, not so much. I am very particular about who I talk to. But back then, I had a great group of friends. Our senior prank was we toilet papered the school. So, which was also, too, across the street from Cypress PD. So we had to be very stealth about this. We were dressed in black, like, took my Datsun B210. We had it shoved full of people parked on the side street. We toilet papered the school. That was the worst thing I ever did. And again, some of the guys involved in this, like, took it to an extreme and did worse things. Like, I think they super glued blocks, or I don't know. Like,
right.
Anyways, they got in trouble and didn't walk in graduation and whatevs. But so that was the worst thing I did in high school.
Got it.
Like, legit bad thing. Like, I consider that
TP.
I TP'd.
TP's the worst thing.
The TP is the
but
worst
you might not
thing.
graduate because you're not going to church on Sunday.
I mean, I get the high school, like, you have to have rules and everything, but to be a Christian, a religious school facility, like, practice what is being preached.
Oh, mercy me, oh, mercy mine. Down on my knees, I got my arms stretched to the sky.
So now that you've graduated high school, almost, barely, you made it out.
Squeaked
With with a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth about kind of what this religion stands for. So you kind of start maybe making choices of your own now that you graduate?
Yeah.
And how'd that go?
It was probably like a Girls Gone Wild episode.
Woo!
I got my first serious boyfriend, lost my virginity like months after I graduated, drinking like some Boone's Farm and Mad Dog 2020.
Boone's Farm. Strawberry Hill, baby.
Strawberry Hill. Yeah, so I was like living it up. I was enjoying it. I was 18 and enjoying the
choices, your own life.
I was enjoying it while I was doing it. I may not have been enjoying it the next morning after doing it, but yeah, I was making up for lost time.
That happens.
No, I'm joking.
That happens.
Yeah. I worked full time. I was going to school again, just doing what I had to do to get by. Did not graduate college, but I worked full time, and life was going on.
So you work full time, making somewhat bad decisions. I mean, nothing out of crazy ordinary.
No.
But what were some of those choices? Like, where did they lead to?
They led to me cheating on that boyfriend because really, like, I had never, like, dated. You know, he was my serious boyfriend. I was only dating him. Like, that's not fun. So then I took the fun to, like, well, I'm going to meet up with other people. And so I ended up cheating on him with a guy that actually I knew as a young teen. He was like my first kiss and everything, but reconnected as adults and totally cheated on my serious boyfriend with this guy. And then it was like, I
full throttle.
Full throttle. Welcome to the years of being a whore. I don't know.
We're going spicy here, people. We're going spicy.
Unscripted.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was sleeping around and then just not drinking again. I hadn't gotten in to doing drugs at that point, but I just was living it up that way. And then I met another guy, and then it all went downhill.
Well, what was this other guy?
This other guy was a bad decision all around. I'm a tall girl. And I always said I wouldn't date shorter men. So one, he was shorter than me. Strike one. Should have been it. Done. Secondly, he was married. He was married. Actually, that should have been the first strike. But yeah, so I started dating him. We dated seriously, like crazy. Got into drugs. We partied. We did cocaine. I mean, I spent some crazy times in Malibu, just living. I don't even know what I was doing, honestly, at that point.
Partying.
Just partying. Yeah.
So it's just funny that it was a serious relationship with the married man.
Yes. My parents did not know he was married. We dated for a couple of years, which is even more bonkers. And I'm disgusted at myself looking back. Like, if my husband did that, be on Dateline.
You're younger. You're not really
I'm younger, but I have no respect for myself or for this other woman.
Nor does he.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
So partying in Malibu, seriously dating a married man, dabbling with drugs. How's it continuing?
It continues by me getting pregnant.
Yikes.
By this married man. And I went to my mom. And then I finally spilled the beans to my mom. Like, I'm pregnant with his baby. By the way, he's married. I'm surprised she did not have a freaking heart attack. But in her mind, she was probably thinking about what about all those years in private school?
But you went to private school in high school.
Did you not learn anything?
Well, you could give it up for adoption if that's your only choice at that point.
But talking with her, we made the choice to terminate. And I mean, I made the choice with her support. And so I terminated the pregnancy. Did not tell him. He knew I was pregnant, but did not tell him I terminated the pregnancy. He found out by calling the doctor's office, and I think this was at the start of HIPAA, but I remember calling the doctor's office and going off on them because then he called me. It was just a cluster. It was a cluster trying to cut ties with him and separate, it turned a little psycho. And I ended up moving and not telling him that I moved. But I moved, cut ties, and then started my 2.0 life.
Got it. That's extreme, having to move away to get away out of that relationship and all that toxic stuff.
Yes.
But you did it.
I did. And it's so funny. Did I have religion during those times? Like, I think about when I was doing the drugs and doing just all the bad stuff. I still prayed. Like, I take a hit of Coke and I'm laying down, God, please don't let me die. When I was going through everything with terminating the pregnancy, before being put to sleep or whatever, God, please don't let me die.
Interesting.
Forgive me for doing this. Don't let me die. That was the only time I felt like I was still connecting to my faith, and it was one-sided.
Right.
I know I'm doing all these bad things.
But
Please work with me on getting me through this.
which is something. So you're praying to stay alive at the end of the night with making choices that you know are not probably the best, but you're not continuing a relationship with faith or religion, but you still kind of hope it's going to save you at the end of the day.
Yeah. Pray for forgiveness. Ask for forgiveness, he'll forgive you.
Got it.
Right?
Right.
Trouble to the left of me, sorrow to the right. Can you hear me, Lord, and can you lead me to the light?
Okay, so now you say you moved away and the 2.0 life. What does that mean?
So 2.0 life, I moved closer to work because I was living in Long Beach and I was commuting to Irvine. So I ended up finding a roommate on roommates.com, literally a random stranger who was a genius business professional, super young 20-year-old, started his own company. So I was doing my thing. I was working full time, started out in payroll, and I was just living my life. I cut out all the toxic people from the past, and I started dating myself. I was doing things on my own. I was hanging out with friends, not feeling like I had to be in a relationship with anybody. I would go out to eat by myself. I was just learning to be okay with myself. I was learning I didn't need anybody. My roommate, wanted to start dating, and being a business professional, he was busy doing work and setting up his company. And so he brought up going on match.com, and I'm like, well, if you're going to do it, I'll do it. What the heck, whatever. And so we both set up profiles, and I ended up getting a message from a guy. And we started talking. We started by texting. Did we text? I don't know. We had those old Nokia phones. I don't know how easily you could...
Pager? No, it was
No, I think we were past pager, but it was the Nokia phone. No flip phone, no... It was the Nokia. I don't know what that is. It was a simple phone, and I think you had to push the buttons 3 times if you wanted, that certain letter, whatever. So we emailed, then we texted, I think, and then we talked on the phone. So it wasn't immediately meeting oh, hey, let's go out. We started talking for a month before we decided to go on our first date.
Okay.
And he did not have a profile picture.
Oh.
He did not. I was flying blind.
Wow.
Up until the day of our date, he sent a picture. And it was a picture with him and his nephew.
Cute.
He was not my type.
How so?
He was good looking, but he was not my normal type.
Married?
He wasn't married. He wasn't married. He was tall. He was balding.
Did he send you a picture with hair? Or
I mean, he had hair,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like a full hair. And he wasn't like super muscular.
Okay.
But we went out. We went out to Cabana in Costa Mesa.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it? No, Habana.
Havana?
Habana in Costa Mesa. Laughed like I have never laughed before. We went to Dave & Buster's. Had a great time. If anything, we would be friends.
Okay.
We would be good friends.
Which is your first Match.com, right?
First Match.com.
Yeah.
First one I replied to. First one he sent.
Okay.
Right? So crazy. Did kiss him goodnight. Can't get away from this tendency.
Can't get away from what?
Can't get away from my past. Anyways, I did kiss him goodnight. So yeah. And then like we would talk. He had his shit together. Like he had a profession that he had been in for years already. He knew what he was doing. He was separated. Oh God. He was separated. He was not truly divorced yet.
Okay.
Shit.
Okay.
He was married.
Maybe that's what kept you intrigued along the way.
Yeah. So he was separated, not legally divorced.
Okay.
So we started dating. Like, because I enjoyed spending time with him. He was funny as fuck, like belly laughing.
Yeah.
So yeah, we started dating. He did break up with me after a few months. He did break up with me because he was feeling like people were going to judge him for not being legally divorced yet.
Oh, morals coming into play.
From one of us, at least.
Well, but he's different still.
He's different. And I think at this point before he even broke up with me, or maybe it was right after. I don't know. At one point he did meet my parents. And my mom was like, okay, when are you bringing the real guy over? Because he was the complete opposite of everyone else I had dated. Like, had his shit together, could hold a fucking conversation with my parents.
Not a sketchy party
Not
guy.
as sketchy, no tattoos. He has 2 now. And, yeah, it was weird. My mom was like, when are you bringing the real guy home? Like...
So it clicked, then you kind of took a step back.
He broke up with me at the Elephant Bar in Irvine. And it made me sad. I was sad. But then I think I reached out to him. Like, hey, how's it going? And then we started dating again. And then...
Back on. I love that. I love Match.com was what brought you together.
Well, and the funny thing is, we didn't tell anybody we met on Match.com until our wedding day.
Aww.
There was such a stigma. Like, people...
It was like the first dating
Right?
ever.
And people were using it as like, it was like a Tinder. I think people were using it that way.
Really?
To begin
I didn't
with.
view it like that, but...
I think that's what people thought. I don't know.
I think it was just... people were still not into social media, right?
Right.
And it was just a first way of a new type of dating that I think just was hard for people to kind of wrap their mind around.
Right. Like, you can't just go out and meet somebody?
Yeah.
No, I can't. At this point. I don't trust
myself.
I don't trust myself. So anyways, nobody knew until we got married, and my brother-in-law who married us was like, we had to write our story. And so that's when we told everybody we met on Match.com. Like, my parents didn't even know. Like, we made up some BS, like, met him at the yard house. And my sister-in-law questioned. I mean, she was like, well, who was he with? And it's like, stop asking questions. He was with people he doesn't hang out with anymore. He doesn't do that. Like, he has his core group of friends, and we couldn't even keep that story straight. But I think some people had an idea, but we didn't fully admit it until our wedding.
And you were married by Andrew's brother, who's also a pastor?
Yes, Andrew's brother is a pastor.
So again, God's watching you.
God's
around
watching,
you.
yes.
All right, so now that you found your Match.com true love and you feel like you've got a solid foundation. What happens next?
We're married. And despite Andrew's brother being a pastor, like, we're not into church. Mm-hmm. You know, we don't go to church. I don't even think we went on the holidays together. You know, we didn't go to church despite his brother
being a pastor.
Yeah. Andrew's mom would go to church every Sunday, you know. But yeah, we never went to church. I do have a funny story though, is prior to us being married, I would stay at his house, and Andrew's dad would take the young niece or the young grandkids out for donuts. Well, there was this one Saturday where I was saying goodbye. I was doing the walk of shame out of the house, saying goodbye. Well, here comes, you could hear, they used to have an old diesel Mercedes. You could hear it coming down the street because Andrew lives in the same town that his parents live in. It's not a very big town. You could hear it coming down the street, and Andrew was like, oh shit. And here we are. Here comes Papa pulling up, and the grandkids are hanging out the window. Hi, Uncle Ann. And Andrew's dad takes off. Because here's this girl. It's obvious that I'm leaving. It's in the morning. The grandkids are in the car. And Papa, who was that? Papa, who was that? Who was that lady? Oh, it was the church lady. The lady from church, because there was a church down the street.
The church lady.
So I was known as the church lady for the longest time.
Leaving in the morning with her hair a mess.
Don't mind the smeared makeup or anything. But yeah, I was known as the church lady.
That's funny.
For the longest time.
All full circle, right?
Right?
Like, you just kind of look back and it's so funny.
Yeah. I think I'm going to adopt that name again.
Don't turn away, Lord, hear my cries.
Okay, so now we have you married off to the Match.com True Love. And what's happening, back at home with your parents? And
so before I even met Andrew, my mom had been diagnosed with cancer when she was 50. And I know we've discussed this, like me being 47 now and thinking being diagnosed at 50 with stage 3 breast cancer blows my mind. And like, how would I even navigate that? So she battled that cancer like a freaking warrior. She was so present, and I mean, stage 3, she was doing chemo like back-to-back weeks with only a week off. She chose not to do the mastectomy at first, but then eventually she did choose to do that. But she battled. She went into that. She put on her fighting gloves and was like, let's do this. She got very involved in breast cancer awareness. She was very proud that she was a survivor. She did end up going into remission. During that first battle, I was still not living my best life. But I just remember I was present for her. Like, I would come to all the holidays and everything, and seeing my dad try to support her in that was a little hard because my mom did everything.
That was before you met Andrew, but then you guys got married. And what was the timing for her next?
So we were married just about 3 years, and we had our first son. And then 2 years after our first son, we had our second son. So that was in 2009. And so in 2009, my mom started feeling pains and achy and like something's not right. And I mean, she was very diligent about doing her scans, taking whatever, meds during her remission. She was very diligent and very in tune with her body. It was confirmed that the breast cancer had come back in her bones, and she also now had ovarian cancer. Ugh. And that was the biggest blow to her.
Wow. And you're saying it was 9 years in between her being in remission and then
yes.
It had fully attacked.
Yes.
Came back even stronger.
And now you have a new cancer. Surprise. Like, here you go.
Wow.
Let's do this, Oh, you did that first battle. Great. Let's see how you do this.
So you're commuting from your home to her home, or what's the daily, now that she's officially have cancer again the second time, what's that like for you?
So, and then now, especially that we have their only grandchildren, my mom was the greatest grandmother. She would watch those boys, she would let them come over for the weekend, which was amazing, because in Andrew's side of the family, I have the youngest kids now. The oldest kids, right now, the oldest one is 30 and the youngest grandchild is 14. That is a huge gap. So to have my parents, this is their first grandchildren. They love on those. My mom gets them cards and little trinkets for every freaking holiday. She just loves on those boys. She had to do a hysterectomy. She had to do a radical hysterectomy for the ovarian cancer, which was brutal.
Sounds brutal.
Yeah, it wasn't like robotic. They had to cut her open. And for the cancer that had come back in the bones, they're like, not much we can do. We can do chemo for the ovarian, but they were like, we can do targeted radiation for the bone areas that are the most painful to you. So she chose to do that. She's like, yeah, my collarbone really hurt. Like, that's the most painful one. Let's do radiation there. So they did radiation there. She didn't really understand like the effects of the radiation. What ended up happening was burned the shit out of her throat. Like to the point where she's like, swallowing water feels like swallowing rocks. Like it had burned. It had wrecked her teeth. I don't know who dropped the ball on that, because apparently there was stuff you could put on your teeth to like protect it. She did not fully understand the side effects of doing the radiation. And unfortunately, because she couldn't eat, it like wrecked her taste buds, but you can't even swallow water without it feeling like you're swallowing rocks. She stopped eating, and we had to put her in a rehabilitation hospital to like learn how to eat and drink again.
Wow.
Yeah, to get her nourishment and stuff. So that was brutal.
Now, does she have a big support system local to her, or are you commuting to help?
She did. Obviously, she had my dad. They lived in the neighborhood that I grew up in. So all the neighbors and everything were there to help support. She still worked, which was bonkers to me. My dad did not work. My dad had some other issues going on and was permanently disabled. So my mom would still work. Obviously not when she was in the rehabilitation place, but she's doing her surgeries and everything. So she had a really good support system. And she had a really good mental attitude. We actually got into a fight because she used to have a Caring Bridge page where she would update everyone. We have relatives in Virginia and Kansas and everywhere. And she was able to update one place and everybody could go look at that. And I go, you sound so happy all the time. Like, why don't you be honest about like, this is shitty. Like, right. I don't feel good today. And she's like, what good is that going to do? Aww. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. But it's okay to be like, I'm having a shit day.
Right.
And she refused. That was like a fight we got. I'm like, just be honest. But she's like, what is that going to do?
I can see both sides.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
She got to a point where the chemo stopped working for the ovarian. Or she would do blood work and like her platelets would be too low, so she couldn't do chemo consistently. That was hard for her because she's like, I think saw like she's not going to get better. And talking with Andrew about this, I did not realize some things that maybe she knew it was worse than what she told us. And like she was trying to protect us.
Well, it sounds like it for sure with the Caring Bridge. She was only positive.
Yeah.
And then you were getting the same kind of false.
Yeah. And I didn't feel the need to have to go to like doctor's appointments with her. She was just 60. Like, she wasn't to the point where, you know, like, my husband's mother can't go to the doctors by herself. Like, they don't remember anything. Like, I trusted my mother to, like, relay information to us correctly and accurately. But I think she was trying to protect us.
So once it gets to the point where she's in a facility, she can no longer work. Your dad's
Well, she heals from that. So that trauma from the radiation heals. She comes home. We have Thanksgiving at Andrew's parents' house. My mom comes. My dad does not come. And we're fine. Like, everything's fine. It's Thanksgiving 2012. And she's totally like, sees the boys. Like, it's fine. Like, nothing's going on. The next day, I go to her house because they're going to have a garage sale. And she's like, I'm looking at her. I'm like, what is wrong with your stomach? She's like, yeah, it's really uncomfortable. She looked like she was 9 months pregnant. I'm like, that's not correct. Something is not right here. Say, you need to go to the hospital. Like, this is not okay. Call your doctors. Like, do what you got to do. My dad ends up taking her. Well, I end up going with her. They drain like 8 liters of fluid from her abdomen. And it's called ascites. And usually it happens with like liver failure. But what's happening is the ovarian cancer is causing this. And I call Andrew. Andrew drives from, you know, our house in Laguna to Long Beach. He's at Long Beach Memorial. And they're pretty much, and again, I find this out, like, Andrew says, like, what's the deal? And they're like, this is it. Like, there's nothing else that can be done. And they were like, we're going to have palliative care come in to discuss hospice options with you. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? What is going on? Okay, God, you're on. Your turn. Like, heal her. She's done nothing wrong. She has been an amazing person. She's been a great mother. Is she perfect? No, but she like didn't drink. Well, she drank when she was younger, but like she lived a great life. She was friends to like everyone that came to her memorial were like, oh, she would always send me cards of congratulations or of encouragement. Like, sweet, sweet lady.
So you're praying for God to save her.
Yes.
But getting angry.
I'm getting angry, but I have to put on I have to take off my daughter hat and I have to put on my business hat because now I have to deal with setting up hospice and caregivers and all that stuff.
And you have 2 toddlers.
And I have 2 toddlers.
And you're commuting.
And I have a sister she's helped with one aspect of the thing, but she's not there all the time. And she has no children. We gave her the task of selling my mom's car to help pay for caregivers. We needed caregivers. I could not stay there all the time because of my children, and my husband still needed to work. My dad was not in a position. Here he is kind of grieving his dying wife. He's not and he can't turn her. Like, he has back problems and he's not in a position to care for her 24 hours a day. My sister was being a total douche and was not expecting to stay over there all the time. So we gave my sister the task of selling my mom's car to pay for caregivers. It was during the holiday season. So trying to find caregivers too that would come consistently and not flake out was a freaking nightmare. It got to a point, this was when my sister and I almost brawled for the 3rd time in our lives, where I was setting up the schedule for the caregivers and like where we had holes and like, okay, I'll stay this night. Can you stay this night? I'll stay this night. Can you stay this night? Well, I wasn't expecting to. And I'm like, bitch, I wasn't expecting to either, but This is what we have to do, like, to get through this.
I mean, at this point, did your mom even know that, or did she just not expect?
She did, because she got pissed at us for fighting, because I actually took my sister's purse and I said, what the fuck are you doing here anyways if you're not going to help out?
Right.
I was pissed. Maybe that's my way. That's the way my sister handles things, by just ignoring it, because she seems to do that a lot, or just being absent. I don't know. But I was fucking in it. Didn't want to be in it, but I was in it. I had no time to like be her daughter. It was business all the way, advocating for her, dealing with my dad. I was a daughter to my dad, I guess. Or maybe not. I don't even know. Like,
Wasn't the priority.
it wasn't the priority. But my dad was having issues because one night he tried to move her and threw his fucking back out. My dad could not get out of bed. My dad was 6'5", over 200 something pounds, not a feather. My dad can't get out of bed. And I'm like, what the fuck do I do? I call my husband. I go, because he's a fireman. I go, can I call 911? Because I don't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
Like, I have my mom in a hospital bed in the den. I have my dad fucking sprawled out on his bed, not able to move. And I'm asking my husband, is it appropriate to call 911? Because I don't want to be the stupid person that calls 911 and have it be a lame call. So my dad end up at the hospital like a couple of days before Christmas. It was a freaking nightmare.
She's talking. She's eating a little bit. She's technically on hospice, but you don't really have a gauge for.
Yeah, I would bring the boys over. I mean, it's the Christmas season. And this is a shitty Christmas season. My kids are young. Like, hi, come see your dying grandma. Like, here's a Christmas tree, which my husband set up before she came home on hospice. Like, my husband tried to decorate, to get the house ready for her because she fucking loved Christmas. So I would bring the boys over. They were 5 and 3. So they were young and they didn't, such babes, and here's their grandma. That was the pain. That's the pain I felt, is that I didn't know when, but she only had a few years with these boys. And that's always been my thing, is that she loved those boys so much, and it's not fair that they didn't get to have more of her. We tried to make the holidays a great time for them that year. We failed. It wasn't a great time. Because, like I said, my dad ended up having to go to the hospital. And they sent him to a rehab hospital. This should have been a friggin' precursor of his attitude at rehab hospitals. But it was like a few days before Christmas that they sent him there. And he wanted to get home to be with my mom. His dying wife. We ended up getting my dad out, I think, the day before Christmas. I remember I was at my in-laws. We were doing our Christmas Eve exchange, and me on the phone with the rehab hospital. Like, I'm going to come get him. Like, I will break him out. Like,
Get him home. Yeah. To be with her.
Because they're like, the doctors aren't on call right now. I'm like, I don't care. Like, fucking call him. Like I just need to get him home. Whatever. So he ended up getting home. She was starting to slowly go in more of the unconscious, sleeping states. She was talking to us like we were other family members. I had stopped bringing my boys around by that point because I did not want them to remember her that way. And so that was hard. Yeah, Christmas was really shitty that year.
So she made it through Christmas?
She made it through Christmas. There was one day, and she woke up, and my sister called me and said, Mom just got off the phone with me. I'm like, what are you fucking talking about? She's like, yeah, Mom just called me, and she's totally fine. I go, you're on drugs again. Like, you're off your rocker. I drive up to Long Beach. She is fucking perky in bed, like talking to us. Well, immediately I knew what it was. And it's like that surge, that final surge. Watch Grey's Anatomy and what's his name? Mark, when he had the surge and then he dies. But so she had a great day. Andrew took her out, like bundled in a wheelchair. It was fucking sunny. And walked up and down the sidewalk with her. And that was the last day. that she was awake. She died on January 3rd at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I was there. My sister was there. And my dad had said goodnight to her. And he went to bed, and then she had passed away.
So sorry.
That's okay. Well, it's not okay. But so then dealing with that and dealing with telling the kids, you know, they're young, they don't get it. My mom had donated her body to science. So that was like her final gift to the breast cancer fight is figure it out. You know, here's my body, figure it out.
Yeah, I think when we first met, it stood out to me. You had said that you were thinking of like starting a company to help people like facilitate like cancer protocol because you had felt so lost and pushed around and didn't know all your options.
Like just having to deal with that and really having no guidance and to be my mom's advocate. Like I could not be her daughter. I could not be her grieving daughter and like enjoy my time with her. I had to be like a ball buster and get shit figured out from the hospice companies, from switching hospice, from doing all of this. I could not actively grieve my mom during this process. There are people out there that don't have somebody, like don't have a daughter with a loud mouth and willing to like push back. And that's what I was like, that's so sad. That's so sad to me that there's people out in the world that don't have somebody. And so I was going to go back to school and become like a patient advocate. And then I realized that's a lot of school and I have a family and I can help others in different ways.
Well, so how's your dad doing at this point? I mean, he's a widow.
He's a widow. That was his bride of 40-something years. And he was not doing good. Well, actually, I take that back. He was doing good in the beginning because the hospice company that we initially, or the second hospice company that we made contact with and hired had a great bereavement group. And he was actively participating in that. He would go to it. It wasn't that far from his house. He had met other widows and kind of was creating friendships through this grief. And then something happened. I don't know where his change was, but I don't know if it's because realizing he wasn't going to be able to stay in that house because they were financially stretched. He could not stay in that house.
Because your mom was still working during the
My
time
mom was
that she
still
got
working.
Cancer.
He was not working. They like refied the house. Like they just
Scrimping by.
Yeah, I mean just checking the couches for pennies at this point. But so we told my dad that he was going to have to sell the house, and maybe that was it. Like that house. That's where they live. That's where they raised their family. That's where she died. And so, yeah, that was the downfall, I think, of him. Because we told him, once you sell this house, you should buy like a condo or something closer to us, you know, closer to our family. Because, again, my sister does not have kids. My sister does her own thing. And I wanted him to be a part of my life. You know, still as a grandparent.
Yeah, because you've already lost one.
I've already lost one parent, and now I don't want to lose this parent. So we sell the house, and he ends up buying a trailer because his goal is, I'm going to travel. Okay, we don't like that idea, but you're going to do what you're going to do. That was it. He was going to travel. He was going to go visit my mom's relatives in Virginia. He got as far as Kansas, and that's where he grew up. And then he came back, and he parked it in Palm Springs. And my dad likes to gamble. And so he spends many a day in the casinos out there, the Indian casinos. And let's just say his money did not last long. My sister did some questionable things with his money as well and wrote checks to herself and took quite a bit of money from him. So he got to a point where all that money he had was gone. He had bought the trailer with cash, so at least he still had that. And the good thing about a trailer, you can move it. So he moved out to the lovely city of Hemet. If you've ever watched Cops, that's a frequently shown city.
Questionable type of, a lot of drug use.
They have a lot of police activity out in Hemet. So he moved out to a trailer park in Hemet.
So the trailer's no longer moving. We're not traveling the
We're not
world.
traveling.
We
He traveled
parked it.
from Long Beach to Kansas to Palm Desert
Okay.
to Hemet.
And now we're stationary.
Now we are stationary, and his cousin lives out there with him. God love her. Rest in peace. She passed away. But she lived out there. So I'm like, he has somebody out there. He has family out there. So that's okay. Good. Fine. Whatever. He would come still and like see the boys play baseball or see Dean play baseball or whatever sport Dean was playing at the time. He would come. But then as time went on, he stopped coming or he started making excuses. I'm not feeling good or blah, blah, blah. We would try to go out and visit him and he would like put the kibosh on it. I'm not feeling good. Oh, I have other plans. I'm like, really? Like,
Right.
what are you doing?
So at this point, he's kind of removed himself from being engaged with your family, choosing when to come. So you're kind of back to raising the boys, missing at least one parent full time. And what's it like in your neighborhood or your day to day as far as, who you rely on to get you through this?
We have an amazing neighborhood. We have like a typical, like the neighborhood that I grew up with. Like I could go across the street and be like, do you have a cup of sugar I can borrow? Do you have an egg or whatever? Friends from, like you or people I've made connections with other places. Like because I had gone back to school to do some other things. Like I have people willing to look after my boys or whatever, like we're just living our life. Actually, we're just living our life. And my dad is in and out of it. In and out.
So you go back to school. You have neighbors helping you watch the boys. Andrew's, doing his firefighting on and off. So, you're juggling all that.
I think we're just like in it, we're just
muscle.
Yeah. And during that whole time, I'm not connected with religion. I'm pissed that my mom is dead. I don't even know if I'm praying at that point. We're not going to church.
Really angry and heartbroken.
Now I have to deal with my dad and being pissed at him. I did start having issues with him being so depressed, especially like the first year when, once that Christmas season starts, and trying to get my dad to come here to hang with us for the holidays. Like, you can sleep here. You can, like wake up with us and the boys, like experience that. And he was so depressed, it like dragged me down.
Right.
Like it was horrible. I didn't want to get out of bed. And, I think Andrew at one point's like, you just need to deal with it. Like get over it, or not get over it. But so now I'm pissed at you because you're telling me like, don't let it happen. Like, don't let your dad get you down, But now I'm pissed at you because you have your mom. You have your family. Like, you don't know what I'm going through.
Right.
I didn't have a lot of girlfriends that had lost their moms, Just angry. And trying to force myself to be like holiday cheer, cheermeister.
Yeah,
like
the years keep coming.
Yeah. But that first couple of years, it was super difficult to like fake that Christmas cheer. And trying to do that fucking elf on the shelf shit.
When you're just triggered that what you're missing and sad.
Like I have on my Christmas tree, I took some of my parents' ornaments. So I have those. So like when I do decorate, I honor them. I say like a little prayer for them now. And just thankful that I have those things.
I need you to make up my bed when I die. Forgive me for the trespass. Can't you see I'm running?
Thank you for listening to part 1 of Carrie's journey as a lost sheep. Please join us for part 2, where we continue to hear her story and the turning points of Carrie being a lost sheep found. Also, please make sure to follow us at Lost Sheep Found Podcast or subscribe on our website, lostsheepfoundpodcast.com, so you don't miss an episode.
When the heat wave starts to break and the ice and snow melts away, when the tears we've cried have all run dry and we find the rainbow's end, we'll be walking in the sunshine, walking in the sunshine, walking in the sunshine with him.